Hello and welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. Tonight we are bringing you our SpringBoard series, conversations that we do across the country with a live audience of entrepreneurs to connect better with you, the entrepreneur. Tonight, part 1, where we're bringing you our keynote address. Also on the show tonight, a deep dive into the startup ecosystem. Our keynote address with Anto Allen, Business Head, Business Banking, IDFC First Bank. The deep dive into the startup ecosystem with Bhavesh Jatania, Head Startup Banking, IDFC First Bank.
IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow, where we put the spotlight on ideas for New India and chart the roadmap for the country's exponential rise with the voices and opinions that matter. And in the spotlight is a city that is home to major automobile manufacturing units and allied industries, colloquially known as the Detroit of Asia, Chennai. The time for a thought leadership conclave is now. The time for fostering inclusive dialogue and ideas is now. Now, all that's left for us is to discover the city powering India's automotive growth. With a stellar lineup featuring India's biggest and brightest minds, economists, policy makers and entrepreneurs will all assemble on one platform. ET Now's Leaders of Tomorrow proudly presents SpringBoard, a first-of-its-kind thought leadership conclave, a platform pivoted to cement India's position in the new world order.
On behalf of IDFC First Bank and ET, I take immense pleasure in welcoming this August gathering here. It feels great to be among so many entrepreneurs in the room here. My name is Anto, and I take care of the SME lending division for IDFC First Bank. I've spent about more than 20 years in the lending business for SMEs. So in this slot here, I thought we will discuss a little bit about context of what we're talking about in Leaders of Tomorrow in the automotive segment, and therefore why this segment is important and why Chennai in particular. We are now the third largest automobile industry in terms of units sold in the world. We have overtaken more established markets like, let's say, Japan, Germany, with China and US occupying number 1, number 2 slots. We moved to the third largest slot here. It's a $100+ billion industry now, and we contribute to about 8% of total exports and 7.1% of our GDP here, and giving employment to a large set of people. 37 million jobs generated from the sector, and attracting a lot of FDIs as well. In the last 2 years, we have got about $33 billion of FDI flowing into this sector, obviously helping in job creation as well. And also helped by a lot of government policies as well, the PLI schemes which the government has boosted for the sector in particular. At this rate, India is expected to be a leader in the shared mobility services space by 2030, with a lot of opportunities opening up in the electric and the autonomous vehicle space. In fact, the electric vehicle space, the way it is growing, is expected to create at least about 5 crore jobs additionally in the employment sector. So that's why we are talking about the importance of the sector. And why Chennai in particular? And like the AV said, Chennai is dubbed as a Detroit of Asia. We are home to like 23 automotive manufacturers, 7 tire manufacturers, and a host of auto component manufacturers. We have the heavy vehicle factory situated here. We have, all this basically very well available talent pool in Chennai with a good infrastructure. We have the port available here and good road infrastructure as well, contributing to significant growth and establishment of the automotive industry here. We contribute about 30% of the total automobile. In terms of cars, we contribute to about 30% of the total car sales, which is happening, the production which happens in the country, and about 35% of the total auto component manufacturing which is happening here. So that's the kind of importance that Chennai has got in terms of when it comes to the sector. So the criticality of the sector to our growth, as well as the criticality of Chennai in this sector. Talking a little about IDFC First Bank, many of you would have heard about it, and some of you would have different ideas about it. In brief, who are we? We were born with a merger of IDFC Bank and Capital First, and the merger got done in 2018, and that's when the two entities came together. It was a very complementary merger in terms of the individual strengths. IDFC was a large corporate bank typically, and with large infra assets on its book. And Capital First was a very consumption finance-led entity. It had a proven track record of serving the underserved segment, and we had a lot of IPs around that. And a very granular, high-yielding, high-quality book, which is performed over multiple quarters. So that was the two different entities coming together. And when we merged, there were a lot of challenges. Everybody talks about a large retail bank or large universal bank. We talk about the CASA ratio. When we merged, we had about an 8% CASA ratio. As we speak, we are hitting about a 50% and one of the top 3 banks in terms of the CASA ratio that we have, therefore helping us in our liquidity and our stability in that context. And if you could see the book composition, when we started off, were largely corporate. We were about 2377 in terms of corporate banking. Today, the exact reverse has happened. We are largely now retail focused, with, of course, growing the corporate book in tandem with what the economic growth is. And when you look at a P&L and a balance sheet, it also reflects in the NIMs that we have, which is the net interest margin, which has moved from 2.36% to upwards of 6%, 6.35%. That's the kind of NIMs that we operate on. So very healthy, profitable, growing bank. Although we are a new entrant into 2018 is when the merger happened, but the last 5 years have been great for us. And basically, while in fact we were discussing in terms of just not about how we do business. I mean, it's just not about what we do in business. It's also a matter of pride for us as to how we do business here. And that's where the badge of the seal of honor comes in, where we're typically driven by ethics, powered by technology. And we always try to do something which has got an impact in the social good. And a lot of a business that we do has got that underlying theme there. In fact, powered by this is what, when we introduce our being a challenger bank, we keep introducing a lot of features, which is also industry first, like the ad that we talked about, monthly interest schemes. We also have launched the first in the industry for APR linked to your CIBIL in your credit card, which means that typically this credit card industry operates at a 36% interest rates when you roll over. But we were the first ones to introduce it and linked it to a CIBIL, which means that if you've got a good CIBIL score, then your APR automatically comes down and your rate comes down as low as 10%, which makes it as good as a personal loan that you take. And we were the first in the industry to do it. Again, coming from the fact that good credit history should be backed by a good interest rate. So that's the philosophy behind it. For example, in talking about the SMEs, we have launched a booster current account where the excess liquidity of the current account gets booked into FDs so that you start earning interest on your current account. So that's the kind of products, and it keeps evolving into multiple. In every product that we do, we keep adding those features, which is useful for the client, which makes a difference in the way they run their business, so that they grow their business and we grow our business as well. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
I wouldn't take much of your time, but would take you through what I call the innovation journey of IDFC Bank, right? How do we support not just the automotive ecosystem as such, right, but also the startup ecosystem as a whole, right? And so that's going to be a short presentation of mine, and I'll take you through what we do here. But before I begin that space, and we spoke about automotive as an industry as such, and we spoke about how that industry itself is kind of transforming now, right? Through the evolution of EV, as we see the alternative fuel, other alternative fuel classes that we spoke about here, right? Similarly, the banking industry and the financial services itself is also transforming, right? And we see a lot of fintechs, a lot of banks by itself, right? And financial services organizations coming and innovating both in terms of products and structures here, right? We see now the buy now, pay later is a way of life, isn't it, right? We not heard about this particular term some time back, at least a couple of years back, but buy now, pay later, the early salaries part, right, are becoming norms today, right? Everybody does. Everybody goes to e-com platforms and uses these services, right? So this is a form of innovation. But for IDFC, for us, innovation has been our DNA, right? And that's what I want to actually talk to you about today. So let me just quickly jump into it. So lately, where have you been seeing IDFC now, and some of the news items that I've put in front of you, right? I don't know how many of you have heard about the ONDC part, the digital commerce part, but we've been kind of partnering with authorities in terms of piloting digital commerce in India. And we're talking about building a secular platform, a democratic platform on digital commerce, which we are partnering and helping grow the ecosystem there. We also partnering with RBI in terms of piloting the digital currency there, right? So digital currency, which has got recently piloted, we are one of the key members of that pilot now here. At the same time, we are also ensuring that we keep customer first, right? We're not compromising the customer first approach. We're ensuring that for us, the customer always comes first. And you saw some of these innovations that we've ourselves taken. My colleague Anto spoke about some of the stuff that we've done in terms of the monthly interest rates and all. And I'll come to the philosophy behind it, but large part of it we have covered, so I'm not touching upon it at this point in time. We ensure that customer is our North Star, and which is why we all the innovations that we do are essentially centered around that, right? And innovation does not mean to us that we do innovation at the cost of the stakeholders' expense, right? We do all of these innovations and yet profitable, right? Hugely profitable, especially on the EV side. And we are aware of the challenges on the EV side today. We do not have a secondary market. We are trying to figure out how to build a secondary market, and which becomes essentially a challenge in terms of determining the loan to value. Loan to value gets determined based on the secondary market that you can essentially you have, right? But we are the first ones. We are possibly the largest lenders in the EV space today, as I speak, right? So that's one particular piece, but that's not all that we do here. All right, so IDFC Bank, the DNAs of innovation, as I told you, right? When we looked at, obviously, the savings space or the personal finance space, as we call it, right? We looked at the savings side of the business and said, why do banks pay savings interest rate on a quarterly basis, right? And our ad also speaks about the same thing. We are, as an organization, we are an EMI bank. So large part of our loans are essentially given to consumers today. And we understand when consumers have to pay on a monthly basis how painful it is, the fact that they have to manage their budgets essentially to make the payments, right? So we say if that's the case, it's just equitable for us to pay interest on your savings also on a monthly basis, and that's precisely the reason why we actually moved. And so that's the philosophy behind it. I wanted to actually tell you the philosophy behind it. This is what I wanted to speak to you about, but thank you so much. To conclude this, I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to the audience in this room and people maybe who would be watching, right, over a period of time. And last but not the least, the ET team here, right? Thank you, Sunanda. Thank you, the ET team, otherwise, right, who put this together and created a beautiful platform for emerging businesses to come and interact and meet with each other and meet with experts, right? And gain from knowledge, gain from connects. Thank you again. Thank you.
I'm going to take a quick commercial break on that note. Much more on the other side. Do stay tuned. Back in just a moment. Welcome back. With us here on IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And I see the prevailing color on the panel is blue, but I'm hoping that the views on the auto industry are anything but blue and are upbeat, but we'll get more into that over the course of this conversation. But thank you so much for joining us. Let's start first and foremost by asking our entrepreneurs, if you can maybe set the ball rolling really to talk about your businesses, what you do, just to, by way of introductions and opening remarks to our audience. Maybe I can come to you first, Ayush, if I could request that you just really address our audience this evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, ET Now. Thank you, Sumananda, to, it is an honor that we are here on ET Now. Lohia Auto is part of a conglomerate named Lohia Global, which is into multiple businesses. I represent Lohia Auto, which is an electric vehicle manufacturing company since 2008. We have been few early entrants into the sector and manufacturing electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers since then.
If I can come to you, Arjun, and ask you to really introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Thank you, Sunitha. I'm Dinesh. I represent Rapti Energy. We're an electric motorcycle manufacturer based out of Chennai. We're fairly young. We're a 3.5-year-old company, and we're transitioning from an R&D unit to an OEM. We're yet to enter production. We anticipate SOP in December. The cool thing about us is, and I'd love to get in depth about what we do later as well, is that predominantly, if you look at the electric two-wheeler industry, we've been working on an architecture that's been borrowed from the Southeast Asian markets. We're working on an architecture for electric motorcycles that is built for the specific demographic requirements, right? And that's what we do. Thanks.
Great. TVS and FADA, two organizations that don't need any introduction. So I'm going to dive right in, and perhaps, Shiva, if you can set the ball rolling, really talk about, if you can call out maybe the 2 or 3 top trends that is driving this kind of growth that we're seeing in India as we're sitting. We are talking in the backdrop of FAME, of course. We're talking about the explosion, if we can call it that, when it comes to the EV space. But just 2 or 3 trends you want to call out as opportunities for entrepreneurs.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here. So, as we all see today, India is at a crossroads with respect to how the automotive industry, which direction the automotive industry is going to go, and much of it is, 2 of my friends right here. Electrification is the name of the game, and that is one of the mega trends which we see. The second is a very big boost on the road infrastructure. We already saw the government announcing many of these expressways which are coming. So road travel and road infrastructure, which is going to give a big boost to the automotive industry. That's the second big mega trend which is going to happen. Just imagine, Delhi, Bombay, which otherwise used to take more than 24 hours, which probably you can do it in less than about 12 hours or 10 hours, right? So these are the kind of, so the infrastructure boost on the roadside by the government is going to be the next mega trend. Third is, with electrification happening on the automobile space, the way businesses are coming together is going to be very different. In the sense, if you very closely look at the cycle industry, right? Today, cycles are no more assembled and sent. They come in boxes, right? You can see a future where assemblies will be by experts, mechanic right next door. Because technologies have evolved so much, although, assembling an automotive is not as easy as assembling a bicycle, but technologies are evolving so much that the do-it-yourself kits can be the future. So these are some of the things which I think as mega trends, which will tell us to rethink the way we do business, and probably also give the much required impetus to growth in the automotive sector.
Sure. If I can pose the same question to you, Vinkesh, how are you really viewing the big trends at FADA?
So hi, thanks Ananda for having me. No doubt, see, auto sector is the sector which is very glamorous as of today, and normally even if a person can afford or not, they normally follow all the launches of cars which happen. So a small kid of 2 years or an old of 70 years, they still want to know what new models are being launched, and try to park a sports car anywhere in any part of India, and you'll at least get 10, 15 people clicking a photograph. So that's how glamorous we are in this business. And frankly, since past 3-4 years, as you are aware, FADA has started sharing the retail data, the registration data. If Sir is here talking about investments, I feel if any layman can see that FADA data every month, you don't need to follow any economist, because we inform how the top notch of India is going through with cars and how the entry-level two-wheelers are doing. So if somebody really studies our report, they'll know how India is working, how the rural is working, Bharat is working, or how the metros are working. And that is where the economy is. And actually, why we say so, that I feel he mentioned 7% of the GDP. We are actually more than 12 or 14% of GST payment every month. We are around 47 or 45% of the manufacturing GDP, so if we go up, automatically Indian economy goes up. So a clear indication that auto is the thing. And frankly, when we talk of auto in India, it's far different than how you talk of auto in Western world or any part of undeveloped countries also. Because for us, even buying a bike of 60,000 or buying a car of 60 lakhs have the similar emotion of owning and the achievement of buying that. So like people say that in your life you will buy a house once, and we say you will buy an automobile twice or thrice. And it's always never an individual buy, it is actually a family decision. Being a dealer, I have seen where a customer has booked a black XUV 700, waited for an year, and when the car came to deliver, his family was there to take the delivery, and his mother said, I'll not take black. And he had to cancel that booking, redo a white booking, and he again wait for 6 months for that white booking. So that's how much cars and autos are involved. So, and I'm thankful for ET now to bringing me to Chennai, because I've heard a lot about Chennai, that auto industry is huge there, but I never came to know about it's actually the Detroit of Asia. So it has a history, and I'm thankful for you to bring me to this and in this such an important way.
And looking forward to more opportunities to host you. That concludes part 1 of our Leaders of Tomorrow Springboard from Chennai. In part 2, we will be bringing you highlights of a panel discussion around the automotive space and why Chennai has emerged as the Detroit of Asia, the opportunities and the challenges for entrepreneurs. All of that when we come back in part 2 for tonight. Here's a sneak peek as we're ending tonight's show.
If you are driving more than 30,000 kilometers per year, if you have your own home where you can put a charging station, if you are able to put some solar thing on your head of your house, if you have electricity policy of net metering, you should buy a car today.
Charging infrastructure is key, right? For electrification to reach the masses, you need charging infrastructure.